Hey guys, it's Sam, and I'm still in my parents' guest bedroom, and today I'm going to be doing my spoiler-free review of The Queen of the Tearling by Erika Johansen. So before we get started, because I've gotten a few questions on this in a few different videos, yes, I will be doing a 2016 best of kind of book awards thing. It's coming later this week, I believe. I just wanted to film it when I got back home, and I'm still not back home yet. So once I get back home from my bookshelves with my books so I can actually hold them up and talk about them, I'll be filming that. It should be up next week. I'm also going to be doing a favorites and least favorite couples of 2016 video. That one has been requested again. I love doing it. I will be doing it. So all my favorites slash least favorites of are coming fairly quickly now. So back to the review. The Queen of the Tearling is the first book in an adult fantasy series, and it follows a main character of Kelsey, and she is the Queen of the Tearling, but she has been sent away, and not really exiled, but just like sent away for her safety for the first 19 years of her life, and it is her 19th birthday, and she's being brought back to her home to reclaim her throne. Now this series is very polarizing. I've heard people either absolutely adore it or they absolutely hate it and can't see how anyone likes it. Like there's really no in between with this series, so I was really nervous about going into it. I thought that I was going to like it based on what a lot of people who I trust said about it, because a lot of my friends do really like it and people whose tastes I align with a lot. So I was pretty confident that it would be fine, but I wasn't sure, and ultimately I'm really glad I read this, finally. So first let me talk about the world building. I really enjoy the world building in here, but it's again one of those things that's kind of polarizing. So this is a kind of future fantasy series, so you discover very quickly that this is taking place in our world in some way. There is a map, but I can't really identify based on book one where in the world this is supposed to be, but it does talk about how America and Europe kind of went somewhere else and settled somewhere else and started a new thing, but in the transition to this new place, they lost a lot of their scientific technology and stuff like that, so it kind of is back, we're almost back to Middle Ages a little bit, but there is still some, like, medicine and stuff, so it's a little in between, we're not really sure, but there's, like, cannons and stuff like that, but there's, like, swords again, and there's, like, some medical technology, like, they do talk about, like, surgery and antibiotics and stuff like that, but it still very much feels like a medieval series, you know? So that's something that not everybody likes. I have found that even though I don't technically like gravitate towards that when I hear it in the synopsis, I do end up liking series like this. The Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson is a similar thing. This one is more heavily, like, you can definitely tell that it says in very plainly in a lot of the text that this is like a future our Earth, where the Remnant Chronicles is hinted at a little more and it's not as like plainly obvious, but I do tend to like those kinds of series, so if that's not your thing, if you really hate that, you're probably not going to like this because it is very obvious that that's what this is. So it's that kind of world, and then there's obviously like magic and stuff, but the magic in here isn't fully explained, which I've said before, I don't have a problem with. Like, it really kind of depends. I mean, it's very like, it depends on the kind of magic, but this way the magic works, I'm okay with. I'm okay with it for this kind of story. It makes sense for this kind of story. They admit in the story that they don't really know how the magic works. There's a lot of things they don't understand, and that's fine with me for this kind of narrative. Next, let me talk about the characters, and the characters are another big thing that I think is what makes it polarizing, because this is very much a character-driven fantasy. It's not super action-y. When I got done with it, I was like, okay, a lot happened character-wise, but I wouldn't say a lot happened action-wise. So if you're like really into like action-y fantasy, lots of battle scenes, you know, like fight sequences, like there's a couple of those in here, but like it's very small scale at this point in this first book, and you don't just get a lot of that like action-y feel, you know? Like, I'm gonna compare it to Mistborn, because when do I not compare things to Mistborn just as like a baseline? It's not as action-y as like a Mistborn or something is. It's very character-focused. So if you don't like the characters in this, again, you're probably not going to enjoy it. I loved the characters though. Like, every single character I loved. Kelsey as our main character is like one of my new precious children, and I adore everything about her. Like, she just makes sense to me. I feel like she's very realistic. It says a lot that she's like not perfect, but she also is kind of focused on her looks and the fact that she is plain, and it says that she's plain and she knows that she's plain. And so I think a lot of people have criticized it as being like, oh, she's so vapid and all she thinks about is her looks, but it's like, she's 19 and she's in the public eye. I feel like a lot of people, not even just women, would be very like, ooh, concerned about themselves if they're being told all the time that they're plain in comparison to their mother, who was like apparently gorgeous. You know, so I think that makes sense. She also is a very smart person. She's very strategic, and even though she was removed from like the royal part of everything for a very long time, she was still taught a lot of things in her little seclusion that she had with her little foster parents. And she's just so smart, and she does so many things. I'm just like, you are so badass. There are so many things I'm just like cheering for her. And again, it's not in like a physical prowess way. It's in a like, you are very smart way. So if you like characters like Kestrel from the Winter's Trilogy or Leah from the Remnant Chronicles, or those characters that use their brains instead of just like their brawn and are fighters, then I think you're really gonna like Kelsey. She's amazing, and I adore her. We also have a plethora of side characters. Kelsey is always surrounded by a Queen's Guard for the most part, so these are a lot of these male characters that are pretty much guarding her, and they're also amazing. One of my favorite new characters in this series is Lazarus. He's one of her main guards, and just there's all these discussions about like building loyalty and what it means to be a ruler, and like how someone can rule when they don't know a lot about what's going on, because Kelsey is kept in the dark a lot, and I don't tend to like miscommunication plot lines, but this one again to me makes sense. There's stuff that's not quite revealed yet because all of these characters for the most part were sworn to a lot of secrecy like years ago, so they can't tell her things, which like I said, I'm fine with, but we have all these things slowly revealed where like she doesn't know everything, and how is she supposed to like navigate these waters. We do also get a couple chapters in other characters' perspectives, so there is a villain that's not a huge part of this book, but she's a female villain, a female antagonist, and she's in part of one of the other countries, and I'm really excited to learn about her. I feel like there's this kind of mutual respect thing going on with them that's building, and they don't have a lot of interaction, any interaction at all really, but they know about one another, and that's really interesting. And there's even this like, there's not romance in this book, but Kelsey has a crush on this guy, and he's this character that's again very mysterious. We don't know a lot about him. A lot of stuff comes up later in the book that we're like, what? And she has this crush on him, but it's not reciprocated, at least in this book. I don't know if it's ever going to be reciprocated, but for once we don't have like, oh, the queen like comes into her power and she falls in love with somebody and they're like together and blah blah blah. Like he is just like, yo, I'm not interested in you, you know? And but she still thinks about him, and she still like fantasizes about him, and she still is very wrapped up in him, and it's realistic for this girl situation, and I just love it. I just love all the characters. I found them so interesting. Even like the villains and the bad characters and the antagonists and stuff. It's those kind of characters that are like, everyone's kind of morally gray, you know? You know how I feel about that? So I loved all these characters, and I'm very excited to learn more about them in future installments. Lastly, I'll talk about the plot. Like I said, this is very character focused, but I did not have a problem with that. There are longer chapters in this book. I think they're like 30 pages each, and I was also reading another book at the time that had the same kind of problem, because typically speaking, I don't like long chapters at all. But with this book, I flew through them. There are a lot of like page breaks and stuff, which helps, but I found the plot very engaging. Like I said, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed seeing what was happening, I enjoyed the little mysteries that were getting unraveled, I liked learning about the world, I liked learning about the customs, the court, the magic, like everything I liked learning about. So again, if you don't like the characters, you're not gonna like this book, but if you do like the characters, it's gonna be a fun ride, you're going to enjoy it. There's enough action to keep everything going, so if you are like, oh, I don't know if I can just do court intrigue, it's not just that. There is some action stuff going on. Like I said, Kelsey is a very capable leader, and she's just wonderful. I really enjoyed this book, and it's one of those books that I'm sort of getting a little defensive of, because I see reviews of it, people just like hate it, and I'm like, it's one of those books where, you know, when you watch a review and you're like, I physically don't understand why you don't like it, you know? But like, I don't come for anybody because I wasn't raised in a barn, but I'm always like, that doesn't make sense to me, you know? Like, I don't know why you don't love it, because it's great. I'm really excited for future installments of this one, and I gave this one 4 to 4.5 out of 5 stars. I didn't feel like I gave it quite 5 stars. I'm trying to be really selective with my 5 stars, but it's almost 5 stars. So I am going to be doing a spoilery gush on this, so if you have read The Queen of the Tearling, go ahead and check out my spoiler gush, which will be linked on the screen. So comment down below and let me know if you have read The Queen of the Tearling and what you thought of it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!